Welcome back to Vote Like a Texan. I'm excited to be joined by Caitlin Rourk today. And Caitlin has had an exciting week of deciding what race to go into. And I talked to Caitlin last week about her decisions on Congressional District 31. But through the series of Texas politics, I think we have a new district that you're running in. And it might be a district that is a better fit. But I'm excited to hear how we got to this, where we are, and announce that you're running for Congressional District 10 in Texas.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thanks again for having me, Justin. And it has been a crazy week. And I've gotten calls and texts from friends all over the country who are seeing the headlines. There's obviously been a lot of big developments and headline-worthy news announcements that people have been paying attention to. And for me, I announced my campaign in July, late July, and launched in Texas 31. And when I did that, especially as a first-time candidate who didn't know that much and had no idea that this redistricting push was coming down the pike, I announced in 31, which was where my job was, where my military career was, and it felt right. And then when they redistricted, it was I felt like I needed to stay the course, no question. And we were building an incredible campaign that we were meeting so many people, and we started knocking doors, and we're really getting that kind of grassroots, people-powered campaign that I had envisioned when I set out to do this. But as we got closer, and once the Supreme Court ruled last week, which feels like a lifetime ago, it became clear to me that a lot of the same fundamentals in a district like Texas 31 applied to District 10. And they're both, Republican districts. They both have sort of an entrenched Republican establishment. But the playbook that we were using in 31, which is this premise of making the tent bigger, going and talking to the independents and the disillusioned Republicans, finding ways to connect, finding ways to get our foot in the door and listen and learn and talk about the campaign that we're building and talk about the things we can do for voters from a public policy standpoint. All of those fundamentals applied. And, it was Sunday night and the filing deadline was Monday. And I was outside playing with my kids, and my neighbors were around the street. And what really, I think, was the nail in the coffin for me was being able to put a yard sign in my own yard and know that I could cast a vote for myself, and I could ask my neighbors to cast a vote for me. And knowing that my community could participate in an even more meaningful way in the campaign was really, I think it sealed the deal. And also 10, we'll talk a little bit about 10, but 10 is more expansive geographically. And one thing that I've learned through the short time that I've been a political candidate and out there campaigning is that I like challenges. I like hard things. I like putting in the work. I like meeting people. I like going to every outlying area of a district to go meet with people and talk to people and listen. And I knew that, even though Brazos County and Travis are the sort of two hubs of the new Congressional District 10, you look at the map and it can be intimidating to people. And I thought, no, I've got the spirit, I've got the stamina, I've got the vigor, and my why is bigger than this district. And so I felt really called to make the switch. And so we're officially filed in Congressional District 10, my home district, and really excited about the campaign ahead.
Well, that's fantastic. We talked last week about how districts work in Texas and how they have been remapped in a unique way over the last 12 months, over the last 2 years. And it has opened up doors for people like you to really say, yes, we need to do something here. You have a background of service, though, and I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about why is it that you're running for Congressional District 10? And I think it starts with your service background.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I come from a family of service. My parents were public school teachers. I grew up in Virginia, and they were both my mom worked for over 40 years as an English teacher in a middle school, and my dad taught high school art history and photography and art. And so service was modeled to me really early on. For me, it took the form of joining the military. So I enlisted and commissioned in the Texas Army National Guard. I served full-time for several years. I served in the Army Reserve as well as a military intelligence officer and held a number of different positions. My grandfathers also both served in World War II. My dad was in the Army National Guard. It was just sort of how I was brought up. And for me, the urgency of the moment made me feel that I couldn't sit on the sidelines because I was seeing the trajectory of our country. I was frustrated, frankly, after the elections. I was seeing how much money was being spent, and just this feeling. People felt so deflated after November of last year, and I looked around and I thought, well, I have to get off the sidelines. I have to go do something, and so I worked, and I think I plugged it in the other episode, but I worked with an organization called New Politics, and they were really critical to helping give me the clarity and help me crystallize, do I want to run for office? Do I want to put myself and my family through this? The answer was a resounding yes, I do. And then what office made sense and what office aligned with my background. And I'd say CD-10 is really interesting now. I mean, it's been a crash course for me to kind of pivot. I kind of picture myself as like an Energizer bunny that was really focused on 31, and someone picked me up, and kind of rerouted me and put me toward this other place. But it's really interesting because, again, a lot of the fundamentals as far as the electorate are concerned are the same. But in 31, or in 10 rather, you've got Texas A&M University, and that's a major hub and major economic driver for Bryan and College Station. And the longtime incumbent, Representative McCall, had a lot of foreign policy and defense bona fides. And I think people have gotten sort of accustomed to that and how he's doing work with USAID, previously USAID, with the DoD, with a lot of the amazing work that A&M is bringing. And now, if you look at the new map, even the incredible work that's being done in Austin as far as, Army Futures Command and a lot of the sort of defense tech innovation that's happening in the Austin area and in College Station as well. He was a champion for that. And so now, I mean, putting on my military intelligence officer hat and a lot of my background in that area, it's really interesting to kind of figure out, where are those areas that when we have to go out and talk to independents and talk to Republicans and talk to people who have been very accustomed to having Mike McCall as their representative, having a Democrat who can also talk about foreign policy, who can also talk about some of the issues that have become kind of a staple of the district. That's a new challenge that I'm working to better understand and to better communicate with voters about.
You've been campaigning since July, and I think a lot of it is transferable in the role and across the districts. But what have you heard from constituents as you've been out on the campaign trail? What are their priorities going into this election?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time out talking to people, a lot of time listening. I launched a listening tour that I was doing in 31, and we're going to do the same model in 10 to just go out and hear from people. And I really try to talk to a mix of voters. I don't just try to talk to Democrats. I talk to people who are politically disengaged. I talk to business owners. I talk to people who don't want to be have me publicly posting about our interaction. They just want to have the ear of someone who's working to go and serve them and represent them in Washington. So, the reason my platform looks the way it does is because it is informed by that listening. And as I embark on conversations in District 10, and I've had a lot with my neighbors, of course, just organically over the past few months and years of living where I do, it is the majority of people are looking down and they are just trying to put one foot in front of the other. They're trying to get through their day. They're trying to pay their bills. They're hopeful that they can find a safe and stable place to live that's in fairly close proximity to the place that they work. They're hoping that they can, find some affordable childcare option. They are literally surviving and staying afloat. And that takes many different forms for people. I mean, obviously, housing is a big piece. As insurance premiums go up this year, I mean, people are keenly aware of how much financial stress there is in their life and how that drives their entire sort of outlook on things. And so I think those economic issues are really important. And another thing I hear a heck of a lot of, and I think it's universal to Texas, is a lot of concerns about our public schools. When vouchers kick in next year, I think people will see it even more clearly. But I think people are starting to, I think the last legislative session really awakened a lot in people. And I think people are starting to pay attention. I think a lot of folks are really frustrated by Congress. I do get a lot of people who say, why are you doing this? You can't change anything. You can't be the difference. It's futile to go do this. You're gonna lose. You're gonna get there and not be able to put points on the board. And I wholly reject that, because I think that if we stop fighting for the things that we care about and we believe in, and our kids and our communities, then, I mean, it's not the way that I live my life. And I think a lot of people do feel frustrated. And so, I'm going to the mat to fight for those policies that make their lives better and allow them to get ahead and not just get by, because that feels like the critical sort of place where most people are, whether they're business owners, whether they're struggling just to pay their bills, or just they feel like they're sort of living in this place that they don't even recognize as the America that they love.
Well, a lot of my concern is voter turnout and making sure those people that might be disenchanted, that might say, oh, you can't put points on the board, my vote doesn't matter. I want them to remember that it does, and it matters across many races. You don't typically go for just one election. You're voting on many things in many parts of your life, and the local elections are my passion, non-partied local elections, where we typically don't see a lot of turnout on the off-cycle, the May election, right? And so when I'm thinking about 2026, we have a primary coming up on March 3rd. It's probably going to result in a runoff for many candidates, which is in May. And then finally you get to the election in November. And at that point, I think people are tired, right? But I really want to use this platform to educate those people that the turnout does matter, and that you need to show up at your primary, because if you don't have your voice heard in the primary, your voice isn't really heard after that, because you may have voted for somebody that didn't win the primary. And so it's critical that, or you may have not voted at all, and the person you wanted to vote for didn't win. And yeah. I see that happen often. And it's an opportunity for us to go out and say, hey, we need engaged, informed, educated voters that are coming in and looking beyond a singular issue, and they're looking at all of the races that overlay, and your passion on the maps is important here, because where you live, whether you're in a city, you're in a county, you're in a precinct, you're in a district, if you don't know the answers to those, who represents me, it can be very difficult to keep up with, well, when do I need to show up and vote, and why do I need to show up and vote? And I thought we voted last March. Why are we voting again in November? So a long-winded question to say, how do we help get people out and get them off of that disenfranchised position and get them to turn out for a vote?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this whole experience has been just I say it's been a civics lesson as a citizen, because when you're out talking to folks, sometimes you're surprised by how much they know, or how familiar they are with different things. And there's a class of people that are deeply entrenched. They're the activists, they're the precinct chairs, they're the people that are going to the meetings and the rallies and the protests. But the majority of people, don't have that luxury sometimes. I mean, we have to meet them where they are and help educate them and inform them, but I think also help create either the urgency or the passion that they need to make the decision to spend their time, whether it's taking off of work or, juggling their 3 kids to go down and vote. because it can feel really hopeless. And I think that when you get people and you electrify people and you get people excited and connect, here's this struggle that you're experiencing, and here's how this is relevant to your life and how your vote could impact X, Y, or Z. I think that is what we have to do. And I think that part of that is finding those people that are really excited and passionate, and probably listeners to your series are going to be, fairly well informed. They took the time to come listen to Vote Like a Texan and check out the website and learn more about this campaign and this project. But I look at those people and a candidate like me as having an extraordinary responsibility to go out and mobilize those people. And there's a lot of, relational organizing is an amazing way to do it. And there are a lot of tools, a lot of technologies that can help you connect. In the case of Texas, Blue Action's an amazing organization that really helps put relational organizing in the hands of individuals, and they're doing it at scale, and they're having incredible results. And I think also it's just getting back to that sense of community and finding what are the things you're excited about. Maybe it's not my campaign. Maybe you don't live in Congressional District 10, but find the thing, to your point, whether it's the school board initiative or the local race that really excites you, or it's a top of the ticket race. Whatever it is, find the thing that that's going to get you up every day, and where you can help rally and put your efforts and your energies, because I think it feels a lot more satisfying, whatever the end result is, to know that you gave it your all and you put points on the board, than to sit by and be idle. And so I think a lot of it is just finding the thing that's getting you really excited and getting you off the couch, and helping to get others off the couch. But I do feel it is our responsibility, again, as candidates, as legislators, as activists, to go out and meet people where they are, and make it as easy as possible, but also help tailor the message to those people. So it's a big job, but I think in Texas right now and nationally, there's a real opportunity, especially with some of the results we saw recently across the country. I think there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of excitement at the top of the ticket. So I'm really hopeful that what we see in March is going to create a lot of momentum and a lot of foundation, so that when November comes around next year, we are going to be in an extraordinary place. So I'm excited, but it's a big responsibility, and one we can't take lightly.
Well, Caitlin, I really appreciate the conversation today. I'm excited for you announcing Congressional District 10 is the race that you're a part of. Where can people learn more about your campaign and get in touch with you?
Yeah, our website's the best place, CaitlinRourk.com. That is the hub for everything. We've got a volunteer form there, and I'll say we love volunteers from everywhere. We have a lot of work to do, both on the ground, but also a lot of virtual support that folks can provide, whether it's phone banking or texting, or just lending your skills and your passion. It also has all of our social media profiles, and it has more about me and my thoughts and my policy positions, and just a chance to dive deeper. So the website is great. It has our email address, info@CaitlinRourk.com. And I hope folks will check us out. And again, if it's, if you're inspired to go out and find that thing that really gets you passionate, I would encourage folks to do that, because it feels really good to know that you're making a positive difference for Texas, whatever that looks like for you.
Well, Caitlin Rourk, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to visit with you today, and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Vote Like a Texan. Please remember to like and subscribe, and check out votelikeatexan.com.